Hi, I'm Amy.
I'm Linnea.
I'm Chris.
I'm Buzz, and this is the LDS Singles Anonymous.
Today we thought we'd kind of go back to one of our earlier videos. We did a video about why we think we're single. And we wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I feel like commonly everyone tends to say to me, maybe not always, but they say, you're single because you're afraid of commitment.
I think that's kind of accurate.
I mean, it's kind of accurate.
Right? Without a doubt.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's not just because we don't want to commit. So there are definite reasons behind it. So we thought we would do a series on some of the fears that are the basis of why we are afraid to commit.
I like it.
Could be fun.
Okay, so we're going to do this in individual episodes, like one fear per?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's the first fear that we're going to address?
Well, I was thinking that one of them that maybe, I don't know about men, women in particular, we tend to feel one of our fears is that we are afraid of getting lost in the relationship, of disappearing, of just becoming not our own person anymore, basically losing ourselves.
It's like the idea of when they take your name and now you're Mrs. John Smith. It's like, I don't even get a first name anymore. Like, we've just kind of disappeared.
Fill the slot, as we've said previously. So that's one. I don't know if have you ever had a fear of getting lost in a relationship, or is there some part of that you could maybe say is the equal side for the men?
I am kind of a big individual. I am a unique person. I say loud things and offend lots of people. I am very feared that, oh no, you're not that way anymore. You're going to be because that's what you're supposed to be. Again, kind of going back to that one thing that we stated. A man marries a woman thinking she will never change. A woman marries a man thinking he will change. Both are wrong. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I get the feeling of, well, that's great that you were Buzz the single guy that did all these weird, crazy things. Now shut up and be Buzz the married guy because you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. So yeah, is that lost in the relationship? I guess kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on the guy's side there is a little bit of that. Kind of what Buzz was saying in the sense of, having to give up certain aspects of your personality, giving up quote unquote fun and things like that to take on added responsibilities that, come with forming a family. So those are some of the things I think that at least stereotypically that men sometimes fear about getting into a relationship. And for lack of a better term, because this is a horrible term, being tied down to the old ball and chain, so to speak. So
yeah, I think there's certain things that need to be given up. Playing video games 8 hours a day may not be conducive to a happy marriage relationship.
What?
We might have to cut that down to 2 hours a day.
I'm feeling personally attacked here, but okay.
I'm just thinking about some of the things that may need to come back. So I guess there might be some truth to it, but I don't want my personality. Okay, maybe the things that I do, maybe I'm not going to go racing all the time. Maybe I'll pick, 6 big races a year and I'm still a racer and blah, blah, blah. But I'm afraid myself, my entity is like, no, stop being that, stop thinking that, stop, and like restrict it down to, you just shut up and be the perfect priesthood holder because that's what I need you to be.
Interesting. Okay.
But I don't want to hear about the man's point of view. I want to hear about yours. Because maybe I'm wrong. I think women give up more. You don't even get to keep your last name.
Yeah.
You don't get to, I mean,
you can. That's a thing. There are some people. I would rather not give up my last name. I think my last name's really cool. And if I have to give my last name up, no offense to all you Smiths or Johnsons or Browns, like, I really like my last name. And I really, it's my identity. It's what I've gotten my degrees under. I don't really want to give it up. So yeah, that is definitely something that for me is very difficult to think about. We do give up a lot as women. I think we're taught from young women.
You just assume that that's what you do.
You're going to give everything up.
And I think the name is really symbolic in the fact that, like, oh, you will, you get, if the guy keeps his name, now he's just has, like, an accessory that's attached to him. Whereas, like, I have become a whole different person. And so it's really about that identity. It's like if I became a doctor, I would no longer be Dr. Gigger. I would be Dr. somebody else. And it's like, I got that degree. That was mine. And so... And it's also like oftentimes you're expected to give up a career. And there is one aspect of that in some ways that can be, when women choose a career, we often, if we assume that we're going to get married at some point, we tend to choose ones that we're like, oh, well, this is something I enjoy and I can support myself. And those are the two qualifications. And so for us, giving up a career that we're often like very emotionally attached to and like we feel purpose, we feel fulfilled in doing that. And then you're like, and then you want me to drop that so that I can take care of other people all day long. And not that that's a bad thing, taking care of other people, but we're very attached to this thing that we have chosen to pursue for our lives.
Ooh, can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
I've always been really bothered by this. Even before I was, old enough to know what single was. Does it bother you that you going out and getting an education and getting a degree or getting an occupation has always been called the backup plan?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, that's great that you have a backup plan. Oh, it's great that you have... That bothered me, and I'm not a woman.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because I chose something that was considered wanted to be a professional ballet dancer, and that was considered very like, oh, that's so cute. She can do that, and then she'll get married, she'll retire, she'll have kids, and she can just like teach afterwards. And I was like, I want this to be like my life. Like, I don't think you understand that I take this very, very seriously. That was just like, oh, that's so cute. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, but that's definitely what we were taught. I think they have changed the way they teach it in young women's now. No. Okay, I don't
heard
know.
it last week, and I went,
last week.
Next episode, I'm bringing this up.
Okay, yeah, because I definitely.
Okay, I teach Sunday school. We'll work on this.
Good.
I teach
those
teenagers.
children. But that's definitely something that we were told in Young Women's.
Yeah.
Go get your education just in case your husband dies or you don't get married.
It's a nice idea.
Or it's a nice idea.
Right, like,
it is the backup plan.
Just in case the worst happens. The worst being that like your husband dies or he gets laid off for some reason, as if like pursuing an education as a form of personal fulfillment, or because I might not ever get married and might need to support myself, and that's just an aspect of being a human, as opposed to like, oh, like that's,
Plan A is get married.
Obviously, you're
have
going
a
to get
million
married and have children.
Yeah.
Plan B, in case like everything else fails, like in case you fail or like your husband fails, everything fails down.
You have a backup.
Potential source of income just in case.
So I think this highlights a fundamental difference in what women are quote unquote expected to give up when they get married versus what men are expected to give up, right? Because as we were talking about, it was certain aspects of our personalities and maybe, and fun things and things like that. Whereas for women, what's expected to give up is almost their identity. And I think that's a very fundamentally different conversation.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So, and kind of what you were saying, where in so many cultures, and even in our church culture, you go from being, two separate individuals to Mr. and Mrs. man's last name, right?
Man's first and last name.
Man's first and last name.
I went to a wedding 2-3 years ago, and they introduced the couple when they walked in, Mr. and Mrs. I will not say their names.
John Smith.
John Smith. She was completely gone,
right?
And it hurt my soul. I was so upset. We get lost.
Yeah. I guess the one question I had for you guys was, do you feel like you gave up picking a career that you might just enjoy more because you were expected not only to provide for yourself, but also for a whole family.
Yes.
I wouldn't say I gave anything up because I went into this, but I'd be lying if I wasn't considering that part as a factor. I remember very clearly when I had my mission exit interview that my mission president, the counsel that I received was to, work in such a way that would allow my future wife to stay home and rear the children, right? And he was saying, work, 2 or 3 jobs if you have to be able to ensure that. Fortunately, I'm in a career where, that's not necessary, but at the same
Doesn't it
time,
feel kind of like you work 2 or 3 jobs sometimes?
it definitely does feel like I work 2 or 3 jobs. So,
With the hours, it's 2 jobs.
yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
And the stress you take home afterward.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good comment, and it ties really well into, I think, how we want to end these, is what do we do about it? We have these fears of losing ourselves, and I think one really important thing, something I would like all men to know, is that it needs to be a conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We understand that there needs to be sacrifices, and maybe the sacrifices, kind of what Amy was saying and what you were talking about, maybe the sacrifices on the men's side were made earlier, in that you had to sacrifice maybe a dream job for a job that you knew would support a family. So seeing that, we can understand, all right, there are some sacrifices that we can make as well. But just going into it knowing that the women do give up a lot. We give up a lot. So men, don't just go in thinking she's filling
She's
that
gotta change
slot.
everything.
She's got to change. She's got to move where my career is, which is another thing we've always
Yes.
thought about. She's going to stay home. She's taking my name. She's giving up everything to be with me. Make sure it's a conversation. It's a not even a negotiation so much, but like it's a discussion. It cannot be assumed.
Yes.
2 things: conversation and maturity. If you have the conversation and you really care about that other person, you're going to be able to say, okay, let's make a negotiation. For instance, I've seen a little bit of marriage, and I've watched a lot of my friends. My wife is going to go out with the girls every week. That's a mandatory. You cannot do this, stay in the home and no, you go out and do something stupid and crazy. And I don't care if they're with your singles friends or your married friend. You go out and have girls' night because that is something you need to be whole. Some people go, no, your job is to be here. I don't care if I've got to go to Taco Bell that day. I know how to order Taco Bell. But, it's one, you've got to be open-minded to the other person, that they're a real human and that they are giving things up. And it is a sacrifice for them. If you're not there, then you don't have the maturity to be in a good, successful relationship. If you've got the maturity and you can open the conversation, you might not know we've given things up. We might not know that you really want to keep your last name, which is something I did not know until today. Interesting. Don't ever say that on a first date.
Yes,
We have been informed.
We have been informed. That's a controversial one. We'll take that one to later.
So yeah.
Well, talking about last names on first dates, is that up there with talking about baby names too?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the thing is that with maturity comes the realization that you need to have these conversations, because I think that, especially when I was younger, like I wasn't thinking about that kind of thing. It was just like, do I like you or not? And whereas now I'm like, oh, like now I understand a little bit better of what I want. I think it's important to start having these conversations, and it's also that you can kind of start to without earlier on. You can by asking questions about like maybe their family and their family dynamics, and just like, oh, like, and how did you feel about that? That can say, okay, well, like in his family, like his mom gave up her last name and she stayed at home the whole time, but maybe he doesn't, and he grew up in that environment, maybe he likes that still, or maybe he's like, oh no, like I don't care, like I went to school with a bunch of really strong, independent women who told me it was important that they want to keep their jobs, and I'm like, okay, you keep your job, you know. But like, if you don't ask the question, then we make assumptions, and when we
Right.
make assumptions, right, we make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Good communication will always trump bad assumptions. So if you have good communication and you have the maturity to understand the other person is a human being that has desires and hopes and dreams and fears and all these things, you can create a relationship that can be a successful one. And you can stop being the Singles Anonymous and you can start being something else. So this is wrapping up this episode. We will see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, be free to subscribe. Hit the little like button because that means that we're going to make more of these. Thanks again. We'll see you.